Brakathiya Howell, Brakathiya Shai, Brakathiya Howell, Brakathiya Shai, Brakathiya Howell, Brakathiya Howell, Bashim Yahushai, Bahashim, Rikal Kodash. The blindness of the apostles and the elders of Great Millstone will true well. Salutations to the hopeful elect out there, Akim to Sadakim that do this thing in the utmost truth and sincerity. I'm the priest Shaman, and this week's topic is going to be entitled, Are We Child Predators? The inspiration comes from this video that was in my news feed. I'm pretty sure it was in different people's news feed about this guy that, he's 44 years old. He was supposed to meet up with a chick that's 14 years old, and he wanted to marry her so he could legally have sex with her, is what he says. Ultimately, we know he probably was using that marriage shit as a bullshit. He just wanted a young damsel. When you watch this lesson, this guy, he couldn't get it up. Apparently, I mean, he brought pills with him to last a couple more hours, and he was saying he wasn't as endowed or whatever, but he knows how to work it. All these types of stuff, all these stuff that should be kept confidential, they put him on blast, And what they did was they had a 19-year-old actor pose as a 13-year-old girl and had a different woman voice the person of this actual 13-year-old woman that they posted online. Notice I did to the woman because I'm going to go on this lesson and prove that according to the Bible, someone that is 13 years old, a 13-year-old female is a woman, is a young damsel. And I want to say this is a caveat. The Bible is not a Western book. It wasn't written with a Western mindset that we have over here in America. All right. It's a book that was written in the Middle East. All right. Different culture, different time. Okay. However, the Most High does not change. That's in the book of Malachi, the 3rd chapter and the 6th verse. And it says in the book of Hebrews, Yahweh shall the same yesterday, today, and tomorrow. So the views that are in the Bible, even though they're not practiced, are still the same. The Most High still sees everything in the Bible the same way. And look, man, this guy is one of millions. All right. It's one of millions. It's just illegal here in America. You know what I'm saying? It goes against the so-called, but the things that the Bible condemns are legal here in America. The Bible does condemn homosexuality, lesbianism, transgenderism, bestiality, these types of things. But you can marry a tree in America. You can marry a car. You can marry the same sex. You can marry an animal. Isn't that strange? You can marry an animal, but you can't marry a 13-year-old female of your same species. Well, this is the land of confusion. This is Babylon, And I'm going to try to keep this as scriptural as possible because I know the title alone and the topic, and with all the censorship, I want edification to be brought out because this is what we call the nasty of the scriptures. This is the part that a lot of Hebrew Israelites don't want to touch. This is the part where a lot of Hebrew Israelites throw their emotions in there. All right. So we're going to deal with the concept of, look, back then in the ancient world, men, even older than this dude, this guy's 44. You had men, a prophet of the Most High, our king, 70 years old, was offered a woman that was 12 or 13 years old. When I put this lesson together, am I putting it together to say go out there and find you a 13 or 14-year-old girl? I'm just saying, look, if a man has desires, he might be driving past a high school or middle school, and I'm going to be straight. He might see some of those little girls and, get aroused by that. But I'm putting this out there to let you know, like, that's not unnatural. That happened back then. And this guy is just one of many that have those desires now, but is in a society where it's illegal. That's all that's happening right now. Meaning if he'd have done this and marry this woman, all right, well, rather to be, to come straight forward, that woman, that 13-year-old woman would have been given to him and he'd have to pay for her, and she would have to be a comfort unto him. Because in today's generation, you have a young daughter, she's going to school and she's not doing nothing productive for your house. She's snapping, she's twerking on Instagram. She's fucking already. So what's the point? She's in high school fucking already. Most of them, not all. Okay? So this society is completely different than how the Bible was written. So without further ado, I'm again this, and this is for Educational purposes. This is the book of Mark, the 5th chapter and the 41st verse. It says, "And he took the damsel by the land and said unto her, Talitha komai, or komi. In the Hebrew, this is kwam, in the Lashon Kodash. So we're saying kwam, like rise, like we say kwam yashrala, which is being interpreted, damsel, I say unto thee, rise. So a damsel, all right? So let's use that, stick to that word damsel, okay? Let's understand the idea and concept of a damsel. What they got in the Greek here? A girl, a damsel, a maiden, right? But not only any maiden, a damsel is associated with one that is very young, It says, "And straightway the damsel arose and walked, for she was of the age of 12 years." So she was a 12-year-old damsel. "And they were astonished with a great astonishment." Now, this lesson is to prove that, look, when a woman reached the flower of her age, which is her period, anywhere from 12 to 13, 14, depending on when they get it, she is now a woman. She could bear children, That is a better guideline. Puberty is a better guideline than emotions. Is pretty much how the Most High sees it, and it's logical. If let's say hypotheticals, every person was wiped out on Earth, and you have to reproduce, right? You want to do it with she wouldn't be able to produce until she has her flower, which is the period. That's when you could bring forth more generations. So that's how it was done. The cue to when she can have babies, and now she's a woman, So in ancient customs, marriages were happening at early ages, and they were preordained, and there were huge age gaps. All right. Abraham and Sarah. Abraham was 100, Sarah was 90. So Abraham, let's go by this ratio here. If Sarah was 12 or 13, Abraham would have been 23 or 24, which would be illegal here in America, But then again, the things that are legal in America are illegal to the scriptures. And I mentioned some of them, such as homosexuality, bestiality, and you even have transgender and homosexual pastors, which the punishment of that is actually death. Leviticus 20 and 13. And the punishment for adultery, which is a man sleeping with another man's wife, is death. But those things are condoned here in America. No one gets locked up for breaking the laws of the Bible. You have rappers that sing about adultery 24/7. Singers. Mrs. Jones, me and Mrs. Jones, and those types of shit. Don't tell him, don't tell him. Songs about adultery. These things are played throughout the club. But if you were to go back in ancient world Israel, which were being occupied at the time by Negroes, Latinos, Native American, the true Israelites, you'd have been put to death for that. Even the thought of it is sin, according to the book of Matthew, man. All throughout the gospel, as the Lord tells us. Just thinking it is a sin. And I'm not defending what this guy did. All right. I'm just putting this because this is a topic that is in the Bible, something that we do teach. And, when you just coming in, you're listening to all types of Hebrew Israelite videos, and one might be getting great edification from Great Millstone. And then that topic concerning the fact that, look, yes, older men are going to deal with women when they reach their flower, which is the age of anywhere from 12 to 13, 14, 15, that's scriptural, that could throw somebody off in their emotions. And the primary angle that these demons like to use is, would you have a daughter do that? Yo, what if some older guy was doing your daughter, man? And all pure emotions. I don't care about what ifs and hypotheticals. What does the Bible say? What does the Bible say? I don't care how I feel about it. Is what does the Bible say about it? And according to the Bible, there's where there's no law, there's no sin, and that's not a sin. But in today's era, we're not in our power, so we had to adhere to the higher power. So I wouldn't condone any brother trying to do what this guy up top did and be a child predator, as Esau calls it. Acts 13 and 22. Now I want to bring out this point because King David was 70 years old when he was supposed to deal with a damsel that was 12, 13 years old. Now, was David a wicked person? Well, let's see something. Acts 13 and 22. And when he had removed him, he raised up unto them David to be their king. That would die. The blessed, this is our king. All right. This is Jacob. All right. He's the man. He's the one that the Most High loves. To whom also he gave testimony and said, I have found David, the son of Jesse, a man after my own heart. Hold on. Read that part again. A man after my own heart. Meaning King David is on the same mind with the Lord himself, which shall fulfill all my will. So the book of Acts was written years after the account that I'm about to bring out. And the Apostle Paul, who had a direct conversation with Yahweh, the Son of the Lord, the only begotten, actually, the only spirit created by Yahweh. So we seen everybody's on the same accord that, look, David is a man of the Lord. He's one that seeks after the Most High, and the Most High, looked upon him and said, look, this is my chosen, right? I say that to say this. To those that might say, well, God condemns that and God is not with that. This is the New Testament too. Acts 13, the 13th chapter, the 22nd verse is the New Testament. It's about to confirm an event. I'm going to use it to confirm an event in the Old Testament, as they call it, to prove that, look, it's just one testament, bro. It's one. The Most High he didn't change. All right. You can't say this is but that's the Old Testament God. That was in the Bible, but that's the Old Testament God. Well, no, we just proved it in the New Testament that all of King David's actions was justified and righteous in front of the eyes of the Most. Not all of them, rather, but the ones that weren't breaking the laws. Because then King David did break the law. He committed adultery. He was forgiven, but he, suffered major punishments, man, almost worse than death. 1 Kings 1:1. Now King David was old and stricken in years, and they covered him with cloth, but he got no heat. So let's get the age of King David. The way we're going to do that is we're going to go to the precepts, precept upon precept, right? Let's go to 2 Samuel chapter 5, verse 4. David was 30 years old when he began to reign, and he reigned 40 years. So he was 30 when he reigned, and he reigned 40 years. The same amount of years as King Saul. So that will put him at 70, right? So David is 70 years old right now. We're approaching the latter end of his reign. Now King David was old and stricken in years, because at that time, as it says in the book of Psalms, the average year was about 70, and if you're lucky, 80. You got to remember that King David had a worn-torn body. So the fact he even made it to 70 for all those wars and different campaigns shows you that this guy was not average, man. The Most High was working with his body, working with him. His mentality was everything, to get through all the different wars and to be going to wars up in age, man. This wasn't, that's like an NFL player playing for 20 years in a league, 30, 40 years in a league. It's astonishing, It says, and they covered him with clothes, but he got no heat. So, David was, he's well beyond his prime, and, we're about to lose one of the most cherished in Israel. So, we're thinking like, damn, what can we do? So this is what we did. Verse 2, wherefore his servant said unto him, let there be sought for my Lord the king a young virgin. A young virgin. The Hebrew word there for young is Na'ira. That actually sounds like a good name for a woman. Na'ira, which means girl, damsel, female, servant, little girl. Woo! Damn. A girl, damsel, a little girl. So that whole idea of a damsel being some 18-year-old legally consented, because they might throw their emotions in there and say that, no, damsel means, 18 years old, legal consent. According to Esau, no, man, a damsel is a young little girl, a young woman, marriageable young woman, concubine, prostitute, maid, female, attendant, female servant. So it's a young woman, right? A young says it. It says they translate King James when they translate they put young for that word, naira. All right, virgin. Not only that, not only a young chick, but a young virgin, man, hasn't been touched. And that's one of the things that they highlighted in this thing above, man, when they were condemning this guy, like, oh, you made sure she was a virgin or some shit like that, or asked if she was a virgin. So this man's lust it just goes back to an ancient world lust, man. And it's kind of crazy because you have certain of these schools out there, private schools or Catholic schools, and they have these chicks that Esau would call underaged, right? 15, 16, 14, and they walk around in these little dresses, like very skimpy dresses with stockings and shit. So knowing that with all these types of guys out there, Esau's just putting bait, man. Bait to trap more people up. Because if you have these guys are looking at these girls out there like meal, like, prey, and they're quote unquote predators. So why would you have the prey? That's like having putting a sheep in front of a midst of lions and getting a fat, juicy sheep in front of in front of hungry lions. But Esau, they have them wearing these Catholic, and you know how they know that's some sexy shit? Because they'll sell those sex outfits, man. They'll have outfits where you buy it for your woman and you dress her up and she dress and act like a little schoolgirl and shit. That's part of, like, that's a fantasy, right? Even those so-called like porn videos, they'll have that teacher fucks student, and you got an older chick dressed up like a little student, and the Catholics. Everybody knows that's supposed to be some type of provocative. People do that to spice up their relationship. So Esau knows. Come on, let's be real. And when you have these guys, they're gonna be passing those schools, and you're gonna have those chicks wearing them skirts with the stockings and shit. With the buttons, and in the summertime they cracking the button showing their cleavage. Cause guess what? The women are also ready, man. They having sex, but not with older men, but they having sex. So this whole idea of having an age gap in between it, that's just Esau's shit. And brothers got to get that out their mind that, like, look, that's something that was practiced in the Bible. That's in the Bible. It's not a sin. It's not something that we condone or something that we say go out there and do, but we have to teach her, look, it is not a sin. Just like how we say homosexuality and lesbianism and transgenderism according to the Bible is a sin. We're not going out there at a pride parade and saying, death to you and all that type of stupid. We don't do things like that. We just bring out straight scriptures and straight edification concerning the Bible, man. So I can't condemn this guy because the Lord wouldn't condemn this guy. He hasn't done anything wrong, man. All right, in lusting after that chick, that's not off. All right. Now in the ancient world, if he'd have raped this woman, there's laws concerning that. If he'd have took this 13-year-old damsel concerning against her will, there'd have been laws concerning it. And the law is, if my daughter was promised to another man and he lied to her, then he had to be put to death if she screamed and rebelled. All right, if she fought it. Now if she was into it, if she got all into it and she was promised to somebody, well, they both had to get put to death because she was promised to somebody, and this is according to the Bible. So you have to touch these parts of the Bible. You have to touch the quote unquote nastiness, the nasties of the scriptures. Ain't nothing nasty about it, man. All right, this is just nasty because we have you have Hebrew Israelites that have been westernized, man. They grew up in this Western American culture, and that's all that's gonna do, man, is just make you stumble at the scriptures, man. All right, because you really have a better understanding of the scriptures if you try to shorten the bridge of the cultural gap, man, between the Middle Eastern way of thinking and the Western way of thinking, man. If you go over there in certain parts of the Middle East now, they still practice this. It's normal to them, so they would get it. And they have multiple wives over there. There's a lot of traditions over there in the Middle East that are still upheld today, because the huge difference between Eastern custom and Western custom is Eastern customs try to uphold the traditions of their fathers and pass them down. Over here in the West, it's considered old-fashioned if you just stay one way. That's how come the 80s have a certain era, the 90s have a certain era, All right, the 70s, the 60s have a certain era and spirit to them because they don't keep traditions here in America. It's like, what's the latest fad? You know, and let's go with that. Over there in the Middle East, people are still dressing the same, doing certain things the same. But I mean, they've been westernized certain parts, but there's certain traditions that they wish to uphold. They want to keep their multiple wives. All right, they want to keep the to be able to marry 15-year-old woman if they like. All right, and that's how come, you know, they have that's one of the major things they also have against America, man. That the Americans are trying to impose their views upon the world, but the people of the Middle East are not trying to do that. They're not trying to come over here and tell us what to do. But here you have Americans and these different Western powers going over there and try to tell them what to do because they are that same Greek empire coming back. Esau Edom, the so-called white man, that's always been his nature. All right, that's how come when he was walking around and calling himself Greeks, Helen, in which they stole that from the Japhetic people, they wanted to have everybody think like them. Hellenization, which today is just called Westernization. It's the same principle. You know? It's going back to the scriptures now. It says, wherefore his servant said unto him, let there be sought for my lord the king a young virgin. All right, we already went through that. And let her stand before the king and let her cherish him and let her lie in thy bosom, that my lord the king may get heat. So lying in the bosom don't mean, you know, just putting your head on David's chest. All right, I mean that's a part of it, but if David get to touching, and I'm not gonna get too graphic, but if David wished to have sex with her, she wouldn't have anything opposed to it. You know, back then women weren't having the choices of who they want to be with and go on multiple dates and a Tinder account and POF and you know, let's go to the bar or club. I'm gonna try to find. A matter of fact, this society, the mothers actually teach their daughter to play the field. You know, to find that wasn't so back then. All right, it wasn't like a multiple choice or fucking a lottery ticket in terms of being your husband. You were, you know, the woman had no say. You know, she was told who she would marry. And this particular woman, she was beautiful, a beautiful young girl, a damsel, age of 12, and most scholars agree with that. And she was given to King David, you know, and her parents were excited about it. You would be excited about that if you had, you know, your daughter being given to King David. You kidding me? That was like a very high honor for the parents. So you know how they must have felt, you know, they must have, you know, they wanted to, because the custom was if David was the papa, you know, the bloody sheets would be given to the parents as proof or token of her virginity. You know, so they was all like, look, man, my daughter hasn't been touched. You know, King David, you could deal with her, and you know, I could keep the sheets, and I could say, look, this, you know, my daughter's married to King David. You know, that was a high honor. My daughter was beautiful enough to, you know, out of all these women in Israel, man, all these women in this lands, man, you know, they chose my daughter. You know, so it was like that. You know. And I want to prove that lie in the bosom is talking about become his woman. All right. Not his friend, not his little maid, but become his woman. One of his wives. Micah 7:5. Trust ye not in a friend. Put ye not confidence in a guide. Keep the doors of thy mouth from her that lieth in thy bosom. So that's talking about your woman, man. You know, lying in someone's bosom could, you know, is all throughout the scriptures. And, you know, depending on the context, it could mean different things. But the context that it's being used is being used to look that make that your wife and have sex, man. You know, if a chick is lying in my bosom, that means we just fucked or we about to fuck, man. Part of my French. You know, if my head is on my chest, either I'm about to do something or we're just done the thing, man. You know, let's prove let's get another scripture if that might be too, you know, just not direct enough for you. This is Genesis 6:5. And Sarai, who later will be called Sarah, Sarai means my princess, Sarah just means princess. And Sarai said unto Abraham, my wrong be upon thee. I have given my maid into thy bosom. Whoa. That maid is talking about Hagar. And when she saw that she had conceived, I was despised in her eyes. The Lord Yahweh Shem Yahshua judges between me and you and thee. So Sarai gave Abraham Hagar because she couldn't have kids. She had kids and that pissed her off. She became envious. But the point being is, she's saying, look, when I gave her to line that bosom, means I gave you to her to pop, man. So that's a custom that might seem very strange to people now. That the wife went and got the husband another woman because she couldn't have kids, you know? And it wasn't no frozen semen somewhere. It wasn't. They didn't freeze Abraham's semen and plugged it into Agar because that's some shit they'll probably do to that. No, he lied with her. He enjoyed it. All right. All right. Sex doesn't. You have to think about this, right? Let's think about this. And I got this point from Amna Wahala. You can't have kids without the man being in it. All right. If the man is not into it, sex life cannot go forth because if his rod doesn't arise, the sex can't start. But the woman doesn't have to be into it for babies to take place. She doesn't necessarily have to be wet, for lack of a better term. All right, she doesn't have to be turned on. All right, the man could still penetrate her and put seed in her. Now she could be fucking wet as slip and slide, right? She could have the super soaker. If the man shit is not up, nothing is happening, period. And it doesn't matter the man's size, all right? Whether the man is in doubt or not. If he's not going, then, there's no life going to be bring forth. There's no sex going to happen. But vice versa, if the man is ready to go, all right? It doesn't matter the woman how much she's into it, It's just, can she have kids? And if she could have kids, which that starts around 13, 12, 13, 14, then that's a go, She's a woman now. And they show you this in this series Game of Thrones, which, they show you that in the ancient world, that's how things were being done. And the Lord is okay with this. The man upstairs, which is a so-called black man, by the way, the Most High God, is with this, man. The Lord is with this. Now let me jump back to First Kings, where I was now. Now that we understand what a damsel means and lion in the bosom means, that my lord the king may get heat. So let's see if we could get David's shit back up, man, by giving him a young baddie. And I'm just updating the terms of how we were speaking, Same thing. Let's go find him a little baddie, get the king back his rhythm, because he ain't looking too well right now. For First Kings chapter 1 verse 3. So they sought for a fair damsel. She was a baddie. All right. And that right there proves that it was a common thing, because the servants, they weren't no young servants, man. These were grown men that thought the chick looked good. And what's crazy about it is some of these chicks that are 13 have already enormous titties and ass and look super developed to the point that they look older than certain women that are 20. You got chicks that's 20 with no ass, no titties, and very petite, and it look very young, but they're 20. And opposed to that, you have 15-year-olds that look stacked, man. Genetically, they just stacked. No surgery, no nothing, stacked. You know what I mean? But young. So if they didn't disclose their age to the man, the dude could get trapped up. Because some of these chicks look like that, especially with the makeup nowadays, And they got fake ID. So what the hell is a man to do? The chick is looking older, got the makeup, and she getting her period, and she could lie to the dude and trap him. How the hell could he know? If we're going based off looks, see, that's why you can't go based off that whole consent thing, because it's like you could trick the dude. Now, if you went by the whole period thing, then definitely, that's a clear sign that, okay, this is a woman, this is not. But going based off looks and some paperwork that anybody could forge could get anybody trapped up or hemmed up, man. And you can't even say, well, what if she have kids? Because, well, no, you couldn't say, well, look, you can't even say that, because what if she had a baby at 13? Which is still practiced in a lot of countries, man. Islands and stuff. You might hear, oh, my grandmother had a kid when she was 13, because that was practiced back then in the islands, right? This whole idea, this 18-year-old consensual shit, this is recent. This is in recent history, you know? Because if a chick had a baby at 13 and now she's 15, 16, and she got the makeup on, you could think she's like 23. And she could just lie and say she had a baby when she was 17. You know what I'm saying? So they sought for a fair damsel throughout all the coast of Israel and found Abishag, a Shunammite, and brought her to the king. Now, the King David say, man, get the hell away from me with this young girl, man. I'm 70 years old, dog. You crazy. You crazy. She young enough to be my granddaughter. Was King David fucking talking like that, man? Obviously not. Verse 4. And the damsel was very fair and cherished the king and ministered. So she loved them, man. She served them. But the king knew her not. So King David didn't pop her. You know? He didn't pop her because he wasn't as, he's 70 now. You know what I'm saying? He didn't pop her because, it's not because of, it's a sin, or it's because of his age, man. He wasn't, you know what I'm saying? There was no magic pill back there and all that, none of that, man. And at that point, certain chicks just treat you so well, you just appreciate how well they treat you, man. That look, even though I can't pop a man, this trick treat me so good. She probably was rubbing his back, rubbing his feet, making sure he was, helping him bathed up and all that and whatever, man. Just be a real confident helpmeet onto him, man. But when it came down to sex, it just wasn't happening like that. He wasn't as young as he used to be. He probably wanted to, but he's probably like, damn, you know what I'm saying? If I was young, I'd have busted shit. But, I'm not going to even embarrass myself, my old ass, with these moves right now. I'm old right now. But if I was younger, man, I'll tear her shit up. So that's probably what the King David was thinking, like any old Jake, But you know what? She doing me right. She doing me good, man. He could have loved her. Scriptures don't outright say that, but, she ministered on. She did him right, man. So he didn't, he didn't pop or whatever, But this is how it was done back then, man. Same thing with Joseph and Mary. Yes, Joseph and Mary had sex, man. Joseph, scholars estimate, Mary's age around 13, 14, and Joseph, because remember, Joseph was already rich and established. All right, just think about that. How, they estimate him at the age of around 36, man. Not rich, rather, but, he had a carpenter business and everything going. Okay, so back then we were not taking there was no age of consent, 18 years old, and no. It was the flower of the woman's age. That's how things were done. I don't have that scripture, but I'm going to go ahead and search it up and bring it up, and then I'm going to close out with a few other scriptures. Flower. This Corinthians, the 7th chapter. I know that for sure. Let's get the particular verse. First Corinthians 7:36. But if any man think that he behaveth himself uncomely towards his virgin, if she pass the flower of her age, and need so require, let him do what he will. He sinneth not, let them marry. So, flower of the age, talking about the period. Apostle Tahar, don't fuck with the commentaries too much. I tend to use the commentaries, if they make sense. So let's see what some of these scholars are saying. I like to primarily, I mess with John Gill, you know what I'm saying? But let's see. This is in the John Gill's commentary. If she passed the flower of her age, let's see what they say. That is, one that is arrived to the years of maturity is ripe for marriage, and is what the Jewish doctors call, I don't even want to guess it, who according to them was one of 12 years and a half old. Now, that's a reputable scholar, man. John Gill is one of the few commentaries that the dude was reputable, man. He studied the Bible for 50 years, and of course they're not gonna know all these prophecies because this is the 1800s. The book was sealed, but these guys do their digging, they do their research, man. All right, and they understand that. All right, marriageable age, and the guy said, look, 12 and a half years old, at which age virgins were judged fit to marry. Hence, that saying of there's all right. If thy daughter blank is ripe. Oh, okay. That Hebrew word means ripe. If thy daughter is ripe or come to the flower of her age, make thy servant free and give her to him. Oh man, yeah. So that's what that was saying back then. Moreover, according to their canons, such an one was no longer under her father's power, for so runs the canon. When she is at the flower of her age, she is no more under her father's power. Now that's not accurate. That's not scriptural. All right, it's not scripture. You don't have to necessarily give her away right at that age, you know, because she could just be a maid and a servant in her father's house without being married to a man. And it was a shameful thing for a woman to come back to her father's house after she's been married. So that whole thing of multiple dates and all that, that wasn't so. Once you got a woman, you got to understand it was like you pretty much got a slave, because it was a price for her. Because she could be useful in the father's house. So I'm just using one of the scholars, one of the commentaries that I use that checks out for me most of the part. John Gill, whatever. John Gill commentary. I mean, but you could use. Let's see what some of the other commentaries are saying. So you got John Gill. Let's see what Barnes is saying. Flower of her age. If she passed the marriageable age and remains unmarried, it is well known that in the East it was regarded as especially dishonorable to remain unmarried. So they understand that this is the Eastern way of thinking, and the authority of a father therefore might be the means of involving his daughter in shame and disgrace. When this would be the case, it would be wrong to prohibit her marriage. Let me see if any other scholars, letting you know that look, it's 12 years old. Let's see if any of them got it. You might have it, but this guy's saying a lot. This is a John Clark commentary. Let's see. Don't want to fuck with the Schofield. The flower. Well, the precept they got here for the flowers, 1 Samuel 2:33, and the man of thine whom I shall not cut off from mine altar shall be to consume thine eyes and to grieve thine heart, and all the increase of thine house shall die in the flower of their age. That's not what it's not what we want to use right now. But yeah, we already got one scholar to bring out the fact that one biblical scholar to bring out the fact that, look, man, it's common knowledge that that when you see that young woman damsel, it's talking about 12 and a half years old. It says that's it on that. Now we understand now that that, look, once a woman reached the flower of her age, there was no age limit. Okay, there was no age limit in which a man could marry. So a woman could be 13, 14, and we seen King David being all the way up to 70. All right, there was no emotions in that. They didn't see it. It wasn't an emotional thing for to see that thing back then. It wasn't illegal. But here it is in America. What's illegal to the Bible is legal, and what's legal in the Bible is definitely frowned upon and seen as something that's illegal. But guess what? That's because Isaiah 10:1 tells us what? Woe unto them that decree unrighteous decree, and that right grievousness which they have prescribed. So this man has turned everything upside down. The scriptures tell you that, man. The turn of things upside down shall be esteemed as the potter's clay, man. Which is not esteemed. The potter's clay isn't esteemed. You break the shit, you don't give two fucks about it. What's esteemed is kings and these things. Not no potter's clay. So the things that Esau puts together, these law, statute, commandments, are pretty much hated, man. People don't give two fucks about them. They want to do their own thing, really. Here it is. The Bible says one example of literally turning something upside down is child support. Divorce. According to the law in the Bible, when a woman was to divorce herself from the man, she would leave with nothing. In fact, she would only have to take with what she had on her at the time. That's how come in the ancient world, women carried their jewels on them. Whether it be nose rings, the gold, and all that. They carried all that stuff on them. The coins that come with the marriage, they used to always have it on them because at any time, the man could just say, look, this is done. Give them a bill of divorce and they're gone. right? And there's an account in the scripture where you had a woman that was searching all over for one of these particular coins because that was the custom of the time. You lose those coins and your ass is done if the woman put you to the side. And Jake was going overboard with it, so Yahushua was saying, "Look, man, stop, you know, stop deading the bitch because she didn't flip the bread right. You know what I'm saying? She didn't make your bread hot enough. You know, Jake was going overboard with that divorce thing, man. So Yahushua had to rebuke Israel on that. And Jake do that too. You know, he cut a bitch off for no reason. And man, I'm done with this. You know, really, she didn't commit no adultery or nothing. And you might have just been hot headed. Nah, get out of here. You know, I don't want to deal with you no more. And really, you're just in your emotions. Yahushua said, look, man, unless she commit adultery, then, you know, just keep her around. Work shit out. Because guess what? You put out there, now you're going to definitely make her commit adultery to go fuck another man, you know? But in this society, it's been turned upside down. If you split or divorce with your woman, she could take half. Jeff Bezos, one of the richest men in America, split with his wife, she taking half. Unless you get a so-called prenuptial agreement. So society is just completely contrary to the Bible, man. So the fact that this lesson that I'm putting together, of course you're going to have people that smear it and come against it, or heck, even try to flag it. Let it be a curse unto them. But all I'm telling you is, look, the ways the Bible set things up contradict with the natures of the so-called white man, because the so-called white man is wicked from the womb. All right? When I say so-called white man, I'm talking about the nation of Esau, Edom. And an Esau, Edomite prominently is, you know, the so-called white race, where you could have black Edomites. All right? Put that out there too. All right? You could have Chinese Edomites, Hindu Edomites. All right? Meaning, so-called white man line with these different nations has mingled his seed amongst these other nations. So that's why I have to give his biblical nationality, which is Esau Edom. He's the devil. You know? And his spirit is totally contrary to that of the Bible. Now, this is the book of Romans 13:1. And I'm going to close out with this. Look, brothers, you know, no, we're not child predators. All right? We're not child predators. Even though I'm telling you that, look, man, you know, certain of these kids out here are what they would call kids, but you know, you pass these high schools and you in your 20s, your 30s, and you see these chicks wearing them Catholic schoolgirl outfits. That might entice you. Is that going off? No, it's not, you know, not according to the Bible. And in fact, according to the Bible, in the kingdom, we're going to be marrying those women that please your eyes, you know, as long as they have their marriageable age. All right. At the same time, I'm not saying going out there and try to act upon any of this now. You know, create a secret account and try to mess it. No, you're only going to get yourself locked up, hemmed up, and the Lord is not with that. Not because you're breaking the law, but you're breaking the laws of who the Most High set up to rule over us. You know, to fulfill the curse. Romans 13:1. Let every soul be subject unto the higher powers. At the time, that was the Romans. Today, it's the modern day Romans in form of the U.S. government. You know, where we stay now. Or whatever respective government that you have, brothers that's watching this all across the world, that holds an age of consent. You gotta adhere to it. For there is no power but of the Most High, the powers that be or ordained of the Most High. So the Most High set the so-called white man up. So Psalms 14, okay. The wicked which is thy sword. Proverbs 16:4 created the wicked for the day of evil. So the Most High put this devil in his position. It says, 2. Whosoever therefore resisteth the power, resisteth the ordinance of the Most High, and they that resist shall receive to themselves damnation. So you try to buck up against the Most High and say, oh no, man, I watched a show with the priest Shaban, man. He said you could deal with them chicks, brother. He said it, brother. Nigga, I ain't say go fucking deal with no other. I'm telling you according to what the Bible say, man. See, Great Millstone told me though, bro. Great Millstone, he said I could do it. Nope. I ain't telling nobody to go out and break none of this man's laws, man. Not one. Keep them to the best of your ability. Pay your taxes. Run on to Caesar what's Caesar. Be a good law-abiding citizen, man. That's what you want to be. That's what you want to be till the Lord come back. Then, woo. Then you have the green light to do a lot of things that the Bible says to do that you want to act upon, but this man condemns it. Zephaniah. Wait upon me. So we got to wait on the Lord, man. It says, whosoever resists the power, resists the ordinance of the Most High, and they that resist shall receive to themselves damnation, man. So don't go around killing homosexuals or going pull up at a gay pride parade and talking about the Most High is gonna kill you. Nah, man, those people already have their judgment lined up for them. You know, your job is just to teach the scriptures, and that's what that's what we here try to do. Start with the apostles and elders, and that's what I pray through this power and spirit of Yahweh Bashim Yahushua. I just did. You know, so I'm gonna give all praises to Yahweh Bashim Yahushua Bahashim Rakakwadash. I'm gonna say double honors to the apostles and the elders of Great Millstone, which rule well, and salutations to the hopeful elect out there, you Akim Tazadakim, that do this thing in the utmost truth and sincerity. And Shalom, man. And death, Yahweh Bashim Yahushua Shalak Rayam I'll call Adawamim Wagwayim with 2/3, those that come against the prophets secretly or publicly. Shalom.